Alright people, how we doing today? We're about to learn about the average rate of change. So, what is the average rate of change? Average rate of change is basically, average rate of change is slope. It's the ratio of change from one quantity to change the other. So, the main thing we need to work on is slope. What's the formula for slope? Slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? Or for a graph, this is basically how we get, when we get an equation, we use this formula. For a graph, we use another formula, which would be rise over run. Today I'm focusing on the equations and also how to find the average rate of change when you're given an equation, and also looking for the average rate of change when I have a graph. So our first example we have right here. Like I say again, this is our main thing we're looking for right here, is plugging it in and solving for it and figuring out our slope. This gives you an average rate of change. So the equation that we have right here, we have x squared minus 2x minus 2. Well, let's read the whole question. Find the average rate of change of f of x equal to x squared minus 2x minus 2 when x1 is equal to negative 4 and x2 is equal to 2. So I'm already given x1 and x2. So what I need to figure out, I need to figure out based on the formula I have the bottom part, but I need the top part, which is y2 minus y1. So how do I use these right here to figure it out? Basically what I do is I take this value and I plug it into the equation. I'm going to go ahead and delete this formula now. We're going to come back to it in a minute. So our first step is to take this negative 4 and plug it into the equation. So basically I'm solving for f of negative 4 is equal to negative 4 squared minus 2 times negative 4 minus 2. So how do we get this? So this answer would be negative 4, we use the parentheses first, so negative 4 squared gives me 16. A negative 2 minus 4 gives me a positive 8 minus 2. So when we add these together, 16 plus 8, we get 24. Minus 2, we get 22. This right here is going to be my y1. If I plug in x1, the answer I get is going to be my y1. Now my x2, same process. Take my x of 2, plug it in, I should get my y2. So f of 2, which is equal to 2 squared minus 2 times 2 minus 2 again. So we get negative 2 squared gives me 4. Negative 2 times negative 2 gives me a negative 4 minus 2. And we instantly see 4 minus 4 will cancel out, and I'm left with just negative 2. So and this equals to my y2. So our answer so what we got to do here we got y1 is 22, our y2 is negative 2. So we take these answers and we plug it into our slope formula, and we should get the rate of change. So like I said again, I'm going to write it right here. For y1 we got 22, and for negative 2, for y2 we get negative 2. So let's plug it in. I'm going to go ahead and erase what we got here. So I have enough room. So let's go ahead and erase what we got. Alright. So our formula, like I said earlier, I'm going to change colors. Our formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So my y2 in this situation is going to be negative 2 minus my y1 is going to be 22 over my x of 2 is going to be 2 minus my x of 1, which is going to be minus 4. We have to make sure we put a minus 4. When we do minus 4, well, let's go ahead and do the top first. Negative 2 minus 24 gives me a negative 24 over negative 2 minus 4. And that minus 4 would turn into a positive, so that's going to be a 6. So we end up with negative 24 divided by 6, which gives me a negative 4. That is our average rate of change. So all we got to do for the equation is All we got to do to find the average rate of change is plug it into the equation, and we get our answer. Now, let's move on to the next one. Another way you might see the average rate of change, you might see the average rate of change just like this. Same concept though. We have an equation given 1 is x is less than or greater than or equal to 1, or x is less than or equal to 3. In this situation, all you gotta do is the same concept, but in this instance, this is gonna be my x1, excuse me, and this is gonna be my x2. So we do the same process. We take this one and we plug it into the equation, and we get our y1. So let's say f of 1 is gonna be 2 times 1 squared plus 3 times 1 plus 5. And what do we get? Negative 1 squared is 2 plus, so let's do 2 plus 3 plus 5. So we get 5 plus 5, gives me 10. That's going to give me my y1. My next one, and let me go ahead and circle that. That's my y1, 10 is going to be my y1. I take my 3 right here, we plug it into the equation. So f of 3 is going to equal to 2 times 3 squared plus 3 times 3 plus 5. And this one simply, 3 squared will give me 9. 9 times 2 will give me 18. 3 times 3 gives me 9 plus 5. So we got 18 plus 9 gives me 27. 27 plus 5 gives me 32. And that's going to be my y2. Right? So now we take this equation, we take these two answers, and we do what? Plug it in our slope-intercept form. So that's going to be y2 minus y1, that's a y there, plus x2 minus x1. So my y2 in this situation is going to be 32 minus my 10 over my x2, which would be 3, minus 1. So we end up with 22 divided by 2, which gives me 11. The 11 is going to be my average rate of change. So we use our slope, we get our answers, plug it in our slope, and we get our average rate of change. Now, this is when we have an equation. Now let's look at when we have a graph. So let's scroll this down. We have a nice graph right here. So we fall into find the average rate of change of a graph below. This is the graph below from -2, x less than or equal to 4. So the way this works is what I said earlier. What I said earlier about the slope, so it could be the equation y2 minus y1 over x2 as x1, or it could be simply rise over run. So how does rise over run work for this situation? We go where -2 is on the x-axis, right? Which is right here, and we see where it hits the graph. It hits the graph right there. That's where it hits the graph. This graph right here. It's the blue graph right here. Now, on the 4, where does it hit the graph? It hits the graph right here. And we have to figure out a spot where it hits the graph. Now, how do I get from this point to this point on the coordinate plane? In this situation, I gotta go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down. So this is I'm not rising, I'm actually going down. So it goes down -6. And I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in this situation, my slope is -1. Just that easy. Rise or run. So let me repeat it one more time. I went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's my slope. My next one. Let's go to another